There are two things that should be taken into account when starting to learn English. Both are fundamental and complement each other to achieve the goal of speaking English with a very good level. The first one is a very important reason to learn English. When there is something in your mind that tells you that learning English is worthwhile, that it is worth the effort and discipline it takes to learn it, then your mind will somehow find the motivation to continue when things get difficult. Without a reason important enough, it will be very difficult to be motivated to learn English, and without motivation, it will be very complicated to go far. The motivation can be obtained from something very good that awaits you when you manage to learn English, or it can be also because of something very difficult that is happening to you. It is amazing, but the problems and desperation for not being able to solve them can become a great motivation to achieve amazing things. The second thing that is needed is the means to learn English. In this course, I want to show you how to use the current technology to learn faster and more effectively. Because of this, the most important thing is going to be an internet connection and a device to be able to visualize the content that can be downloaded from the internet. For example, a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone. It is surprising, but it is possible to learn English only with an affordable smartphone and an internet connection, which doesn't have to be the fastest. It is enough with a speed of 1 megabits per second. This is just something to measure the internet speed. With a computer, tablet, or cell phone, it will be enough with a cheap device where you can watch YouTube videos and a web browser to visualize the internet websites. This is something that already comes in all smartphones, even the most basic. Of course, you need the investment if you don't have the internet connection or the computer yet, but they are going to be things that will not only serve you to learn English, but for a lot of other things. Remember that the internet has become the gateway to access world-class education. Virtually any skill you want to master can be learned using an internet connection and a computer. If you already have them, then you just need to define the reason to learn English. This is the most important one. Something additional that I should mention is that cell phone companies also offer internet packages, either prepaid or contract, but they are limited to a maximum amount of what can be downloaded, limiting a lot what can be done. For example, if the company gives you a few gigabytes of data to download, it will be difficult to use it to learn from YouTube, because the data plan will run out in a few hours. But this is something that is rapidly changing, because now you can find very good data plans with affordable prices. Learning English requires a lot of effort, and the faster you want to learn it, the more effort will be necessary. So, to not see all that effort as excessive work, you must begin by defining the reason why you want to learn English. To do it, ask yourself the following questions. What problems will be solved in my life if I learn English? How will my life improve if I learn English? You have to ask to yourself all the questions that are necessary to be able to define that reason to learn English. But I think these ones are the most important ones. We all have different reasons, but at the end, the only thing that the ability of being able to speak English will do in our lives is to improve it, either with a new and better job or learning new skills that are difficult to learn only with the resources in Spanish or in any other language. It is not necessary to be clear from the beginning about the most important reason to learn English, because this may appear throughout the learning process. The more you learn, the more you will realize about all the benefits you can have when you become bilingual. When you already have a pretty good idea of why you want to learn English, it's necessary to define the time that will be spent in the learning process. The faster you want to learn it, the better the time management must be. Something very important that you have to take into account is that the learning time of a language is not measured in years, nor in months, nor weeks, nor days. That time is measured in hours or even minutes. For example, someone can say that he has been learning English for 3 years, but he cannot speak it at all. I have to confess that this is what happened to me. For 3 years, I went to a course on Saturdays, but the only day that I was studying was the day of the course, during the 4 hours it lasted, and I hardly paid attention to what the teacher was explaining to a classroom filled with 50 students. During those years, we were working with 7 exercise books in which I could only complete 3% of the exercises. All the rest was left in blank. 3 years and I didn't do anything. I just went to a course that I didn't take advantage of, and I never learned to speak English. After that, a situation of despair came to my life And I got to a point where it became clear that if I didn't learn enough English in a period of time of 3 months, the things were going to get really bad. The amazing thing was that I grabbed the 7 books in which I hadn't done the exercises, and in a period of 2 months I had completed them all, devoting at least 8 hours a day, each and every one of the exercises. I couldn't believe it. The last month was to prepare the objective in English that I needed to achieve. So, we can all start learning an additional language at any time we decide, but we will never stop learning it. It is like our native language. With each new experience in our lives, we learn new words or different ways to refer to things. We never get to learn 100% of a whole language, but we can define clear objectives to reach certain goals when learning a language. For example, being able to have a conversation with a person about a specific topic, being able to give a results presentation in your job, being able to close the sale of a product to a potential customer, being able to speak fluently in a job interview. This is what we will focus on in this course. So defining objectives such as this will allow you to make a list of possible questions that you will be asked, possible objections, doubts, concerns, and discomforts. By making your list of questions, you can also prepare your answers to be able to handle them in the best possible way. This can be done in Spanish and then translated into English. If you don't know what questions might appear in a job interview, just make a Google search, such as the most common questions in a job interview. And the search results will appear a lot of sites containing these kind of questions with their respective answers, which you can use. When you have your list of questions, you also have the vocabulary that you have to study in order to be prepared. To study the vocabulary, you can use the online dictionaries to know the pronunciation, and you will also find examples of how to use certain words. If someone wants to learn English, the faster they want to do it, the more they have to work. This is where you have to start developing new habits of self-motivation and self-discipline. You have to start thinking in the same way successful people in language learn and think. You will achieve this with the remaining videos of this section.